1931 Stearman, which I think was used as a trainer, and my father-in-law, in fact, flew one. He was a World War II flyer and recently deceased. He lived a long, ripe, rich, wonderful life, lived to be 93. He writes here, "I flew this, and I value this a whole lot," Don Conley. At any rate, I think some of our women pilots will have flown this and maybe even used it as a trainer. I got really interested in the women flyers when I met Ann Dar, who was also a poet, very fine poet, who's written some of the nicest and finest flight poems, I think. Met her at Hollins University, where I was studying in graduate school, and Ann and I became very, very good friends, and I was fascinated with her adventures, and we visited frequently. I used to see her in Chevy Chase, and she always filled the refrigerator with blueberries for me. She knew my weakness, but Ann Dar was a great one, an original, as these women were and are. And I've interviewed a whole lot of them. These are lengthy, in-depth interviews, and I think there's a lot of unique information in there that's not found elsewhere. I don't know if there's a collection as extensive of the really older flyers. I mean, we're talking about late 1920s, 30s, 40s, and so on up. And they're very, very wonderful, courageous, generous in their offerings and time, and it's a real inspiration to be around people like this. And I guess I was kind of a frustrated wannabe because perhaps if I hadn't had the world's worst eyes, I mean horrible, horrible eyes, I might have been a pilot myself. I grew up in South Wellfleet, Massachusetts. Camp Wellfleet was near there, right up the road, and or right up the beach, I should say. And they used to shoot down drones, have planes towing targets and so forth, and would sometimes hit the plane, and the whole thing would go down. And we were always chasing over the beach and gathering up magnetos and tiny parachutes. I still have one of those small silk parachutes that the magneto would come flying out of the plane when it was hit. Anyway, I guess this is a kind of vicarious experience for me, but beyond that, I just admire the people. I mean, they're wonderful, and so many of them live to these ripe old ages. I mean, many of the people that I interviewed, the WASPs and the WAFs and so forth, lived to be 93. One woman who wasn't a military pilot lived to be 102, and she was still tending the airport and puttering around at age 100 in Tennessee. But I think these are fabulous stories, but I want to do the book right, and any support engendered from people who are interested in this, interested in women's history and the great sagas of flight would be certainly greatly appreciated. Stearman.